Welcome to the When I Grow Up podcast. Today we have Ronen Heine. Ronen is the founder of Luna and recently exited, sold. So we started speaking about doing a podcast probably like 3 or 4 months ago, and then both sold our companies, and so hit pause on that. And so now it's probably time to do it. So for anyone listening, can you just talk very quickly what Luna is and maybe a little bit more about the sale?
Yeah, sure. So Luna was and is a sort of service firm for startups, tech, and venture capital. So it was one of the first in Australia to provide dedicated professional services to the innovation ecosystem, legal, accounting, strategy. So, working deep in tech, startups, venture capital, across the board. We started it a decade ago, almost 10 years ago. Prior to that, I was a corporate lawyer. Prior to that, I was a scientist. And
Didn't know the scientist part.
there
actually.
we go. You could ask more questions. So that's actually a good story on the science front. I'll go there for a second. So I was always interested in inventions and discovery, and how life just brings a few things together. But I sort of did start Luna, but first was in science. So I loved inventions, discovery. I wrote a thesis, started a PhD on a drug therapy called mRNA. And you might be going, how do I know mRNA? Yeah, it ended up being the drug therapy used for the COVID vaccines. Now, I started that, almost 20 years ago. I was doing work on it.
Wow.
And I thought it wasn't going anywhere, so I left. It wasn't that it wasn't going anywhere. It was just
20 years
research. I was sitting there in a lab underneath the Alfred Hospital in Melbourne, and scientific research. You do so much work. By the time it comes to life, it's so speculative. It's so far away, and all of that stuff. So I wanted to get more at the forefront of bringing discoveries to life. Ended up going back and studying law. Became a corporate M&A lawyer. Hated that, but did get exposed to startups, tech, inventions, people trying to change the world, and that's where the idea from Luna was seeded. Corporate lawyer, working a big law firm, helping set up the first few venture funds in Australia, and then I had this idea on how to better support entrepreneurs and founders and tech companies start. No one was really doing it at the time, and so we started a legal accounting and strategy firm. So that was 10 years ago. We started that, very scrappy. We grew it over time, very slow, very, going from like traditional business, one client, 2 clients, 3 clients, 4, growing organically. And then, last year, over the past year, it was sort of time for next adventure for me personally. I was the sole founder, and once I'd made the decision on, what could be next, a sale was a natural path, and found a great buyer, amazing company, who bought Luna, Tiger and Bear Partners. They're a investment banking and corporate advisory group. So they bought Luna's legal, accounting, strategy. You add on corporate advisory, investment banking.
Makes sense.
M&A support. We can help people start businesses and sell businesses now.
Amazing. So definitely want to dig into your scientist roots, and that sounds very interesting. It made me think, like, people often talk about with entrepreneurs these days that the entrepreneur is not usually wrong, that there's a problem there to be solved, but oftentimes the timing is not just right. That seems like another example of that.
Yeah, like on the science front.
Yeah,
100%. I mean, the research I was doing at the time on mRNA, we were looking at diabetic eye disease and using the drug therapy mRNA for diabetic eye disease. And it, that's where it was. 20 years later, all of a sudden there's a pandemic, and this area all of a sudden could be used to make vaccines. And so it's exactly that. Right time, right place, right opportunity. I wasn't there at the right time, right place for the right opportunity in that instance. But yes, absolutely.
So when COVID was happening, were you like, "Hey, have you thought about this?" Did it kind of even? Did it even?
No. It wasn't after the fact.
No.
It was like reading about, there's a vaccine. What? The
What?
vaccine is being built on mRNA drug therapy. I mean, things change a lot in a period of time. So there's obviously the research moved a lot from the early days when I was part of a team looking at it. But it was definitely like, I haven't heard that term in a long time. What? That's going to be the basis of the vaccine. But yeah, it was a funny sliding door moment.
Amazing. Great. Well, now I know that you're a scientist as well. There's some biological things I wanted to speak about today around masculinity.
Okay.
So maybe you might have a view on that. So a couple of ideas for where this conversation might take us. Thinking a lot about liberty for founders and freedom for founders and just this idea of like, how do you create that? So I think given your work with Luna and actually freeing up founders, I think is a lot of what you were doing as well. Interested to get your take on that and what might be coming down the path around AI and agentic workflows. Potentially we dig into how that could also be a liberation for business owners, small business owners, scaling business owners. Definitely want to go there. But I probably want to start around a passion point for you at the moment, which is this idea of masculinity. So we spoke about this before. I know this is something you want to delve into. Is there a masculinity crisis at the moment? Why now for masculinity for you? Like, where's this come from? Like, why are you interested in bringing it to the fore at the moment?
It's a great question because it's funny when you develop a passion for something and you close your eyes and you think, 2 years ago, I'm going to be sitting on a podcast talking about masculinity, and it makes a lot of sense now to me, and I'll tell you why. But, you go a few years ago and you're like, whoa, I couldn't imagine I'm going to be doing that. But, so my path into this world, I'll answer your question. Is there a crisis of masculinity? Like, I'll answer it by saying no, but I think there's a crisis in branding of masculinity, and definitely a crisis for young men, who they are, who they should be, what it looks like, what it means to be a man, how to be productive in the world, and particularly in young men, I think are pretty, lost with things, and that can exist, and there's lots of stuff on gender and all the things that, these are ands, not one or the other.
Yeah.
But masculinity is beautiful. It's biological, masculinity, femininity, the dance, and there's branding that's put on top of that healthy masculinity, toxic masculinity, masculinity is in its essence a beautiful part of nature and which makes us human. So I sort of am quite passionate about, that's just to give you something, an answer there. But my why into the space is quite interesting. I think a few things coming together, and I guess when you go with the flow of life, and things come together. But it probably started for me. I've been an associate professor at Monash University for a few years. So as part of Luna, we design, and the strategy arm of Luna, we design and run entrepreneurship courses. And so we've been engaged for Monash for many, many years, and so we designed a bunch of subjects and programs for them, and I would lecture. And so over a sort of 4-year period, I'd be lecturing, and I'd be turning up, and you've got particularly undergraduate, you've got the 18 to sort of 23-year-olds. And wow, I don't know. When I look around the room and I think, whoa, there's a lot of, like, I couldn't help noticing the guys, the men, the boys, the young men there, they were just so lost, like within themselves, socially awkward, playing out in weird ways as well. What they were interested in the computer screen didn't match how they presented themselves in life. And that just sparked something of like, related to me is, I was like, whoa, what's this just, there's something, this is just odd. And it's hard to explain, but you can feel something like that. Anyway, that was just something I'd noticed. And so I developed a bit of a passion on helping young people succeed, basically. And so it started with helping young people succeed. And then I actually got into the world of men's work by chance, with a chance encounter with an amazing teacher called John Wineland. As all, good things start, it started at Burning Man.
Obviously.
Yeah, obviously. So we actually, Steph, my wife, and I did a session. He was facilitating a big session, with all the things happening at Burning Man, and we stumbled upon this couples polarity session that he was facilitating, and it was one of the most incredible heart-opening experiences that I've had. And it was really leaning into how to lean into the feminine, how to lean into the masculine. And he got us doing work together, and it just opened up my eyes. I'd never thought about masculinity. I just thought, I'm a man in the world. I'm a leader of a business.
Yeah.
I'm a partner. What does it mean to be a man? What does it mean to be a good role model? I've always just tried to be a nice guy, There's a whole book on why that doesn't work, but so my passion sort of got sparked there. I just thought, this is incredible work. I've been working with young people. I've had this area of passion for helping young men in particular, and I saw this program. So I signed up to read a book, stumbled upon a course, and then I've spent the past 6 months training with John in one of his programs. It's an embodied men's leadership training, which is basically helping work on how to harness masculinity and how to support men and how to break free and live healthy lives and how to increase capacity. So I've been doing that program for 6 months. It's involved 2 retreats in the US with 80 men, which is just incredible. And it's pushed me on a bit of a journey into the space.
Amazing. Well, I'm glad you've been on the journey. I'm glad we're here to unpack it. So so just picking up one of the things you said, masculinity has almost got a bit of a branding issue.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's an age thing as you go from your 20s to your 30s into your 40s. I definitely probably spent my 30s. I don't know if it was just all the things that were happening in the world at the time, but my 30s with crazy amounts of shame almost about behavior in the 20s.
Yep.
I became a father at 30, and that was a huge changing point for me as well. I wonder if that is one of the things as I was preparing for this, I was thinking about, and just thinking about who I was as a male in my 20s, who I was as a male in my 30s, who I am as a male in my 40s, and just looking at that kind of evolution. And I think, and I'd love to get your now scientific view on it from a biological perspective, but I think about my 20s, and I was just so driven, and I was so driven for one major thing, and that was how can I have as much sex as possible?
Yeah.
And honestly, I think when I look at all of my behaviors, like consumption of alcohol, attainment of success at work to attain money, I think it was just all leading to one thing. It was how can I be more attractive to the opposite sex?
100%.
And I, from my perspective, that pretty much defined my 20s.
Yeah.
And even from school, it was I was just so obsessed. And so it's interesting now because I no longer feel like that. But I'm interested in understanding the biological drive to that. I was digging into that a little bit, and there is an evolutionary reason for that, right? We're as males, we're kind of programmed to reproduce. So you think about Dawkins' work around the selfish gene, and genes are supposed to be spread, and males create millions of sperm, and I was thinking about the dynamics between females and males, and why the males go on this super risky behavior to have sex with as many people as possible. Maybe not all people, but a lot of my friends definitely were in that, and maybe that is something to unpack around friendship groups and role models and things like that. But I wonder the biological imperative to reproduce and the comparison there between a male and a female. A female if she gets pregnant, she goes through a process of 9 months where she carries a baby. There's this attachment to a baby. She also has limited ovaries, so she's kind of careful about what males she chooses. But males, and you look at like in the animal kingdom, like lions and birds doing all the crazy like attraction dances, like is it like what's that all about? Like what from wearing your scientific hat, like how would you pick that apart?
Well, I didn't do any research into this. Maybe that can be, now that I'm on the other side of an acquisition, maybe that can be my next piece of work. But I think you've nailed it. Like, and what I think you're speaking to here is something that we don't speak about that much. I certainly, like you, as a young male, would never have heard about this. You know, like you hear of control your sex drive. You know, don't do bad things. You know, like sometimes you can feel a lot of shame around your sex drive or all the things. You know, you're acting in one way, but behind the scenes there's shame and, you know, you don't feel loved. I don't know, whatever, you're unfulfilled. And there's just all this crazy shit because we don't talk about it. No one actually says, hey, yeah, you're a young male. You've got...
I couldn't have spoken about this even in my 30s. I had probably so much shame, like as I was like reflecting on my behavior and what society was saying at the time, and you know, having two of my daughters are females, and I was like, oh, you know, I was reflecting on that. I couldn't have had this conversation. I literally wouldn't have been able to have it.
Yeah.
To be able to sit here to you and say, that was actually my behavior.
Yeah. I'm not even sure it's a need for a conversation. Yeah. However, it's normal.
Yeah.
It's biologically like, it is a fact.
Yeah.
Like you know, men have when we say men, it's the masculine, and you know, this doesn't apply to every single male or female, but you know, if you sort of take the broad lens, and everyone should always be treated individually, and there's always an individual difference. But you know, take 100 men and take 100 female, there's a difference in risk taking and you know, testosterone drives you know, sex drive, and there's all these underlying biological reasons as to why a young boy or man would have an incredibly high sex drive. And it's not a mental thing, it's actually a physical thing. And so you know, it plays out in the world of sex drive, but it also plays out in the world of like careers and work and approach to problems. And you know, I think as a society we don't talk about like this. We don't embrace the differences. You know, the feminine is drawn to people, and you know, is a lot more community minded naturally. The masculine is more of a tinkerer, a maker, likes doing things physically and like structure, and you know, has higher appetite for risk taking that can be associated with, you know, some of the essence of life between you know, how we produce sperm, and women have a certain amount of eggs they're producing, like so there's a natural more protection there. Women are a lot more flowy than men, or feminine's a lot more flowy. These differences just play out in life, and we don't talk about it. We don't learn about it. We don't talk about it, and then we don't know how to harness it.
Yeah. You know, I find myself somewhere in the middle of like society, and probably quite liberal in I think most of my views, and most of my friendship group, it would be quite liberal. And so I was very aware when, you know, I had two daughters, like 14, like 4 and nearly 5, you know, about how I was bringing them up, and, you know, trying to create opportunities and not kind of trying to gender stereotype them. You know, I coached my daughter's football team. I got my daughter like massively into football. I coached a football team. I have done since she was 6. I've coached a group of girls since, you know, for a long time. I've seen the whole kind of development. And then I had a son, Tokyo, you know, 12 months ago, and he is so different.
Yeah.
It is wild to see. He is so different to them. Just even like random things like trucks. Like a truck will go past and he will be obsessed with trucks. And there's just all this like, I speak to other people. Yeah, my kid's obsessed. My boy kid is obsessed with trucks. Like balls. Like I have literally tried to feed like footballs and all sorts of stuff to both of my girls, and they've been like into it. He's completely obsessed. He's like ball, 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 ball. It's like something I do this, something else happens, and it's just, I don't know. It's interesting to see. Like you can be as open-minded as you want, and then you see like your children and their natures kind of play out, and it's just fascinating to watch. Like boys and girls are different.
Totally.
Who knew?
and who knows? It's okay to say that, right?
Yeah. But it felt for a moment.
Yeah.
And maybe again, this is kind of like me going into more maturity and being more comfortable in myself. And for a while, like I don't know if I was comfortable saying that for a while. It was, and you know, being in you know, relatively like liberal circles and stuff like that, I probably would have paused for thought, because I'd have friends probably trying to like shoot that down, and probably also not. I'm probably still like learning and thinking through this, but probably not also like how I articulate that, or had a really particularly strong view on that as well, because I just didn't have the experience. I didn't have the data points to actually make a strong perspective. So I was probably like just, oh, that sounds right. So I'm going to kind of like follow that viewpoint. And I also don't want to upset people. I'm a people pleaser. So, you know, I'm just thinking about these young men sat in a university lecture room. Can you just describe the demeanor that you've been seeing? Yeah.
You know, like, and I think what's been particularly interesting is doing this in like lecturing in Melbourne coming out of COVID, where that was such over those years where you could see so much isolation. And I think that also sort of turbocharged a lot. But if I was to show you what a lecture theatre looks like and what young boys tend to look like in that lecture theatre, it's like this, you know. It's like hoodie on, like, yeah, it's like this.
Yeah.
But the thing is, what's happening behind the screen is a totally different persona.
Okay.
It can be weird, and there's stuff going down on the screen in communications, and it's just odd. And, you know, we've all heard of the, you know, like young boys getting pushed into or finding their way into very dark places online. And but when you sit with the human and you look at it, it's odd. And
the TV show Adolescence for me.
Exactly.
If anyone who has to see that, you should watch that,
100%.
because that for me was just like, oh, okay,
exactly. You see, and you can see that I thought was like not so far removed to what
you were seeing,
been witnessing, and a real struggle to interact with females as well. And so that's just like anecdotally, and we had so this is probably over a 5-year period with about 90 kids in each subject. So it's like, you know, decent patch of people, but it's not uncommon. And yeah, it's really interesting. Just going back to the point, it's a great book called Of Boys and Men. Anyway, there's a great quote in there saying, you know, this is a lot on like how lost young men are, and how, you know, it's time for us to sort of help. And, you know, if we go down the spectrum of being progressive, left, right, whatever, like the left is telling our young boys, be more like your sister. And the right is saying, be more like your father. Neither is helpful. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what's the future?
Yeah.
What does it look like going forward? What does it mean to be a great man who contributes beautifully to the world, who supports the world around, and who can harness the uniqueness of and the beautifulness of being a man?
Yeah. I mean, the ancient traditions, I mean, this is more from an energetic perspective, but there's the Shiva, the masculine energy, the grounded energy, and there's Shakti, and the Shakti gives life force to everything. It moves. So, and I think of even some of the teachers that I've seen that mirror that well. And there is this balance. There's this grounded, you know, Shiva-like kind of like trident, strong. There's a saying, the yogic saying, like strong spine, soft heart, and I think that's a kind of like beautiful middle path to weave, right? And
100%. And it's amazing in these spiritual teachings that go back thousands and thousands of years, how they nailed this.
oh my gosh,
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That's the teachings is that from the Vedas, that's more than 50,000
yeah,
years old. Just the essence, the simplicity of that. And that's for me has been pretty powerful.
Yeah. I mean, a book I think all entrepreneurs probably should read is the Bhagavad Gita. Probably male, female. I mean, everyone should probably read this book, but it's essentially about a warrior, Arjuna, speaking to Krishna, who's essentially God in this kind of like in this form of his charioteer, and he's like brought to his knees in the middle of this battlefield, and he doesn't know which way to go, move forward. And the key message that I take from that is this idea of liberated action, this idea that taking action and letting go of outcome. But it's interesting to tie this back is that this guy Arjuna is this great warrior, and even this great warrior, this like the epitome of what we define as like historically this masculine ideal, is like brought to his knees in this moment, and it's like what does he lean on? The ancients were thinking about this a long time ago. It's kind of, I think in modern day, it's probably been lost, maybe. With decline of organized religion and like who are the role models, like, who do you look up to? I think that's probably missing like a bit in society from what I can see.
100%. I think role models is so important, and it's, something I've been reflecting on, because as I've gotten into this work, people often ask me the question on like, well, how do you solve this?
Yeah.
And you're like, well, I don't know, really in the problem exploration space.
Yeah.
But, for me, you just raised a point before around strong spine and open heart, you said.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that you could have a strong spine and not be a dick. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So how are we teaching and how are we showing our young men how to have an open heart and also how to have a strong spine and how to like the two together? And I think it doesn't come from, we don't need all our leaders in the world to resemble this. It comes from small things. It comes from how you turn up as a small business owner or leader. You're going to have people that look up to you. That's going to, particularly when you're young, what's happening in education, I think is really, really, really critical. And this is actually a very scary area of the world and in this space. Stats out of the US now show that 1 in 4 young boys, are being raised by a solo female parent, and that's possible now, which is amazing. And then you throw on that as a home setup without any fatherly involvement, and that's a different problem to talk about. But then through school education, it's going towards almost 100% female teachers through school. Right. So if you're a boy with a female, one solo female parent or dual parents, you don't have a male figure at home, and you go through school and you don't get access to a male teacher through your schooling, where's your own role model going to come from?
Yeah, and that's interesting because to follow that up, I was seeing research that was suggesting that males who were brought up by single mothers were actually doing worse than females brought up by single mothers. I think Scott Galloway was bringing this up. He was suggesting that. A male brought up by a single mother not doing as well as a female, and he was suggesting that the males did need they needed a role model. They needed someone who could just be a bit stronger at times. The females were kind of dealt with it better. But yeah, if you've got no one to look up to, you got no one to model on, like, what do? You look online and suddenly you see Andrew Tate.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, it must be that guy, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
and that's dangerous. And then bad shit happens, and things are messy. And yeah, it's really sad.
Yeah. So I'm just thinking about this, the demeanor and this idea of a young boy hidden behind this computer screen, even in the university setting. Physical interaction. One stat that I seen was that there's something like 50-60% of boys or something by the time like 18 or 21 had never approached a girl like in person.
Yeah.
It was something ridiculous like that. These interpersonal skills, like how do we solve that? Because that seems like something to start with, right? How do you communicate? How do you connect with another person? I can understand like during COVID where that opportunity was taken away and some of those developmental skills didn't happen. Do you think that is something that can be learned even for like kids 18 to 24? Is that something that can kind of be built on now?
Yeah, well, my belief is absolutely yes, because it's so innate as part of human nature to have community and interactions. Like we literally, if we interact with people, we literally get a good feeling.
Yeah.
And when you experience that, you want more of it. So it's so natural in our existence to have community and engagement with other humans that I think it's never too late to re-engage. So I think education plays a huge role. And let me give you an example. If the way, and I'll use the example that I'm most familiar with through lecturing. If the mindset in the past to a classroom or holding a lecture would be, everyone calm down, you're here to learn, yeah? Because everyone's so, like that would be, that's what my school teachers and my university lecturers are like, everyone calm the farm.
Yeah.
You're here to learn. Because everyone's just like, when I was at university, I was trying to, chat up the person next to me, make friends. It was just so social that someone needed to get up and say, hey, shh, no note passing. You go outside if you want to have a beer. You're here to learn, be quiet. Yeah. I think it's the opposite now. I think we have duties as educators that when people come into the classroom, we need to get them connecting to each other. It's not about sitting down, taking out a computer screen, taking notes. Anyone can get information anywhere. The world of AI, which we're going to talk about, access to information is readily available, more available than anything. Access to human interaction, community, wisdom. Now that's really needs to be harnessed. Yeah. So I'm a big believer that through our education system, whether it's school, university, post, I think in a workplace too, like getting people together and having human interaction and having communication and using education or work or whatever it is as a means to facilitate that, I think is really important. Certainly, you can't just tell people who don't have the skills, go out and talk to a young boy, an 18, just go talk to a female. Just go do it. Just be like that.
Yeah.
So something we would do in our classroom is we would facilitate it more like I don't know, it sounds weird, but a mini sort of facilitated workshop or retreat every single session. Every single session has interactions. Every single session people get out of their seats and are somehow interacting. And I think that's the essence of education.
It's interesting. And did you see differences between how the boys were learning and the girls were learning?
I would look. It's interesting because in our world we were teaching tech,
right?
VC, startup stuff. So actually, in our world, the dynamic is weird. We've just spoken about what the young boys are like, but it's a hard space for that's really low in participation from females. So it's really got to be very inclusive, and we got to do better at engaging more females in the space. Yeah. So it's this really interesting dynamic of like, it's not a very confident space for a young female to be, so I wouldn't say it's like a school classroom. So we had to, I would be very conscious of elevating the females in the room who are outnumbered than the males.
Yeah.
my interest was just sitting on the side here of what's wrong with these guys, and how can we
because that's probably the lens that I'd seen this most when I thought about, male, female. I'd worked in technology industry, and the majority of people in that industry was like 90% male. I've always been incredibly impressed by like the ability for females to operate and execute. Many of the like leaders that I put into the businesses that I had were females, and they were just amazing, incredible. Some of them are still running the business that we kind of like left behind. Nod to Juliet Stead there, incredible. But we used to look around like industry events, and it'd just be like predominantly male. So you were seeing that even in the pathways into kind of like entrepreneurship.
100%. And what's even weirder. So I think, just to circle back and double click on something we said, which often isn't spoken about, but there is definitely things on trying to make tech and VC and startups more inclusive.
Yeah.
And there's also biological factors at play here. The two industries that are sort of like highlight this at the moment, I'll take you on a bit of a journey if you don't mind. Give me a second. On the opposite end of the spectrum, you've got education and health, which is now the inverse of what we're seeing in like technology. So in technology, super high male participation in the education space, and in the workforce, and lower female. It's a huge problem with female funding in venture capital and the like. When it comes to allied health or education, it's the inverse. These industries are dominated by women, and it's really hard for a male to engage in that space. Try apply for a job as a male school teacher now. It's for good reason, but there's a lot there. So there's stuff. So you've kind of got these things at play, and where I'm kind of going with this is it's interesting in tech because there's more females now in education, in higher education, participating in university than there are males. So, and that's an incredible, if you were to go back to, 30 years, that's been a like astronomical change.
Isn't it getting close to like 2 to 1?
Yeah, it is.
Entrance?
Yeah. So
female,
like
male.
so that's incredible, right? Yeah. And tech, software engineering in particular, is going backwards. And I think there's some stuff to change. But I also think if we speak about, the feminine being attracted to people and community and a little more risk averse, and the masculine more aggressive, risk taking, and the tinkerer, natural working in the shed at home.
Yeah.
Now, if I was to take allied health versus software engineering as career paths, which one's more in line with that? So, I'm not saying that it's the numbers need work, and there's a lot of other barriers there, but I'm just not sure. Like, I think there's something on those two paths. So if there's that many females in the education system, why are they not choosing software engineering?
Yeah. And is there also the aspect, even when you're looking at the male cohort, there might be the 10% of males who are very kind of bullish, might be kind of athletically gifted, good looking, might have come from like successful families.
Yeah.
That 10% you're seeing kind of driving into creating businesses and having that. So that doesn't necessarily see the rest of the 90% of, and you see that on dating apps apparently as well. It's like, 80% of the women, it's like Pareto principle, like 80% of the women are trying to, attracted to like, 10, 15% of the men that seem successful, athletic, all of these different things. So I wonder if there is this like small group of cohort who are actually doing well, and then there's this 90% that are just sat behind a laptop just getting angry on YouPorn. It's
such a good distinction, And I'm speaking to the 90% here.
Yeah.
it tends to be, you know, the tall, athletic, private school background men. I'm not talking anything.
Yeah.
You know, these are not our young men in distress or young men in help. It's the other side. It's the side that you know, come from a lower socioeconomic background, find it hard to get into university. Even at university, job prospects for them are pretty low. Like, find their way into the world of YouPorn and Andrew Tate, and that's exactly the group I'm talking about, which is most.
Yeah, and that group, I mean, if we're talking about cohorts of groups, that group 4 times more likely to commit suicide, 3 times more likely to be addicts, 12 times more likely to be incarcerated.
Yeah.
Like, it's a challenge. And I think we should, at some point in this conversation, talk about the 10% as well, and what behaviors we'd like to see.
Yeah.
Modeled in that 10%, but there's the 90% there. What about so thinking about solutions here, like what was the solution to this? So engagement, connection. How about things like sports, physical health, training, all that type of thing? Is
huge.
That
huge? Like, I think about like community, and you think about the role sport and community play. I think is just ginormous. You know, you think about you know, those early coaches you have. You know, basketball coach, footy coach. I don't know. They have huge impacts on your life. How they behave, how they talk. You know, in sporting clubs, I played AFL my whole life, and you know, like that was like alpha male jock zone behind there, and like, you know, things would have changed, but there is so much influence that the coach and leaders of community sporting clubs have. And I think it's sad to see the drop off in some respects. You know, the area we live here, everyone's outdoors, and it's great, but I don't think it's exactly like that in the city, and you know, like there's a drop off in participation, and
well, it seems to be getting more expensive. You spoke about like social mobility and you know, sport for me used to be the thing of the working classes. I'm from a working class background. It was just like, this is what you did. But now to turn up to a club, whether it be, you know, the football club or jiu-jitsu, things that I'm pretty heavily involved in both of them, there's a price tag to that.
Totally.
Like, you know, a couple $100 like a month, like in some cases, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
You know, and I see the benefits of the kids going through that and the training, and they get incredible training. And a lot of the like young people are coming out of those programs incredibly well. But there's an accessibility issue potentially there as well. I don't know if everyone. It was the first time I actually heard that when I was speaking to my wife Ida. She grew up in America, in California. And she loved playing football, soccer as well. And she spoke about she didn't play in the club system because of the price point to it. And that was the first time I was like, whoa, you couldn't play sport because of a price point. And that American system seems to kind of have infiltrated kind of everywhere now. Yeah. So just let's talk about the 10%. So the people that are coming through your course, the natural born communicators, the kind of the alphas, like wherever they are, the people who are non-risk averse that will jump out and start a company. If you had to define some traits that you'd like to see in males leaders now, what are some of those traits?
Yeah, so I think my call to action on this group of people, and I'd probably put myself in there. You know, I've had a wonderful upbringing, every opportunity in life, created businesses, had multiple career paths, great education, played sport wherever I wanted to play sport. You know, my parents were immigrants, but did really well as entrepreneurs, and like made a great life here in Australia. I've had every opportunity, and perhaps this is sort of why I'm being called into this space. Learning about this, but I think the call to this group of men is do the work, you know, like engage in this stuff. Think about you know, how you can be a better man for your family, for your workplace, for the people around you, and for inspiration for how can you help. So, you know, I think this is when we talk about men's work or in engaging in men's work or engaging in you know, self-development, finding, you know, a path to spirituality or conscious business or whatever it is. My call is for, you know, like to do this, because once you open your eyes to greater purpose and other people and humanity and all these things, things change, and, you know, empathy is created, you know. But if you sit in your zone of, hey, I'm the top 10% wealthy in Australia, and I just want to become number one, that's my target, and that's it, at all costs, and that's success.
Yeah.
You know, like, come on, man. Like, you know, there's
so tricky, isn't it? Because those people that are having that success are so obsessed, and I can see it in myself. Like, I become so obsessed around the thing, and it was so tunnel driven, and for me it probably took the birth of my daughter to like open up that compassion, that empathy, and then the other daughter come along, more compassion, more empathy. Third one come along, it's like blasted open. But I guess it's getting in earlier, and just having those, whether it's people on the board or the investors, the VCs, actually taking an active role to say, no, these are these we want to actively develop our leaders that we're investing in, to educate them. It's like it's an education process, because if they're just like, hey, here's some money, like, don't do evil, but go and make some money. Cool. Like, what's the incentive? So like, where's the incentive to do that?
It's incredible. So on this course that I had spoken about, John Wineland's program, there were a couple of entrepreneurs in there, really big tech companies, like, and they were the founders. Their investors literally put it as a requirement and said, hey, like, we're investing in you. We need you to elevate yourself. Yeah, okay, yeah. Elevating yourself is not learning how, like, there's a part of, learning your technical skills, better at sales, better at finances, better at team management, you know, all that stuff, yes. And go do this program. You're a male leader. We need you to elevate. Yeah. And they sponsor the program. Person goes on the program, has an incredible awakening. The dominoes just happen. It just happens naturally. So I think there's such a good shout out for people of influence. It's subtle things like that is, hey, you know, as a requirement of investment, or, you know, as a board, you're a CEO, having a great coach who can go between business, personal, family, leadership style, connection to greater purpose, all those things. That just starts a natural snowball. That I think that's what I see in this work. You know, it starts with inspiration from one place. It might be entry into meditation or breath work or a great teacher or a great retreat, you know, going on a Soma program.
That's how we met.
And that's exactly it. And then something's just awakened. It feels good. Yeah. And then you just follow that. And I almost never see anyone not follow that once they get you know, a bit of an engagement in that area. So I think it's such a good shout out for people of influence.
Yeah. So the people of influence, the people where the money's coming from, backing, it's actually giving incentives to these younger people, these younger leaders, putting them through training. And then you'll have the people working for these founders then modeling their behavior.
It's simple. Every single investor should require the founder to do your visionary program at Soma. That's it. all solution. It's over.
I mean, all joking apart,
solve the world.
For me, who's come from a very working class background, where some of the behaviors weren't necessarily modeled necessarily particularly well, and then going through this journey, creating businesses, going through the yogic path, going into Buddhism, trying to find compassion for myself, finding compassion for myself, finding compassion for other people, it's definitely changed the lens. So yeah, hopefully it could be helpful for other people as
Do
well.
people who I'm curious, just to turn the table for a second.
Okay, that's good.
People who know you from your early life in technology, if you stumble upon them now, do they feel a difference in you?
Oh, 100%. It jars people.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that has been a bit of an evolution for me over the last couple of years is just even like within friendship groups, them being comfortable in my journey. Because it's like, hey, I want that guy over there. Like, I remember that guy over there, whether it be related to alcohol or and things like that. And so I think that can be confronting. I think hopefully the guys that were in my team at TVN would have seen that I had a compassionate heart and I cared about them. I think that's probably why people joined our company. That's probably why people stayed with our company. So I think my heart was there. I think I probably just had more reps on trying to keep it open and probably just being more braver in keeping it open as well. And for me, I just like honestly think like the greatest teachers for me were the children. For like every time I've had a child, there's just been this huge shaking in me. Even when I was like teaching at Soma, and I thought I'd done a lot of work, and you know, there was a child coming, I was like, whoa, shook to the foundations, and just forced me to go deeper and deeper and lean more heavily into the tools and educate myself more in the tools. And I think from going through that process myself, it's become helpful to other people. So when people reach out to me now, I'm going through this challenge, I feel like well qualified, like authentically, that these tools that I'm talking about, I'm sharing like, hey, these work for me. I think they'll work for you. So yeah, I think, just circling back to your old question. Yeah. I mean, there's an evolution, right? Like, 20-year-old Peter was probably the last out of the nightclub, the first at the bar ordering tequila. That's shocking for people now. And I'm sure that's it. That like, there's fun in me. Like I can go play. Like actually one of my values is play.
Yeah.
And ensuring, because I found part of me where, because I kind of cut part of that off, and it was like, I felt like I was doing very serious work all the time. Like Soma became very serious. Like you're dealing with people's kind of like evolution and problems and coming to you with problems. And so I think I was losing a bit of my playfulness with that. And so I actually was like, okay, don't lose that. Like find ways to play. And whether that is in sport or, jiu-jitsu, or even hanging out with fun people like yourself who, smart, but they don't take themselves too seriously, and you can kind of play like in that. So that's pretty key for me as well. Yeah. All right. So, so masculine. So I think there's like in summary, I think there's a great opportunity for, I'm so happy that you're doing this work, that you're being out there, being a leader and a mentor and being an example to people and doing the work yourself. That's awesome. And yeah, let's do more of it. Let's get more people and connect. And then definitely even within this podcast, there's a couple of people that spring to mind where I'd love to bring them on and have more of this conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
And do that.
Appreciate that.
Let's talk about freedom for entrepreneurs. So it was a very interesting experience for me to start my first company, and we scaled that to 40-50 million in revenue. And it had its challenges. There was times when we thought that was going to go to zero. We got, threatened by Facebook and Google and all of these big things, and it could have gone to zero at any point. But for me, it felt process-wise easier running that business, that larger scaled up business, than running a $2 million revenue business in Soma. And it gave me real kind of compassion for the small business owner. And so I'm intrigued by your work with Luna, because I think that part of what Luna did is help liberate, I think, from, you know, CFO function or some of the skill sets. But I'm interested in your perspective in what you see coming down the line. Lead the witness here around like things like agentic workflows, AI systems. Like, do you think there's an opportunity? Do you think there's a problem with this myth? So Michael Gerber talked about this myth of the entrepreneur, that the idea that the entrepreneur starts a company to gain freedom and then suddenly finds out, oh, actually, this is actually more intense. I do have to do more roles. Do you think that is a real problem for small business? And what do you see as the solution?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I would have seen thousands of entrepreneurs over the past 10 years, and the world has changed so much. You know, part of the reasons why, you know, startups sort of exploded or came to the fore in Australia, which is still behind on all this stuff, but you know, like its access to starting the business, the barriers to entry were so low. You know, go back 20 years, you need to have capital to get a lease, a storefront. If you're building tech, the tech development costs were so high, you'd need the servers and the computers.
Yeah.
You know, it was just hard. I mean, anyone can open up a Squarespace site today. You know, you can set up a business overnight.
Yeah.
You can sell something overnight.
Yeah.
Tomorrow you can be selling it, you know, connected to Amazon, and you're literally running a business within 24 hours. You know, the website's built off AI. It's just done.
Yeah.
And so the barrier to entry to starting a business is super low. So if you go back and think about what it used to be like previously, you had to have really strong conviction in what you were going to do, because you knew to get it up and running, you needed to have a natural purpose. Whereas now you can start a business on a whim.
Yeah.
And so I think if I think about big changes in entrepreneurs is, I think many people just start businesses now because it's quick and easy sometimes.
It's also in the zeitgeist of like something to do. Is like when I said I was creating a company, like I didn't really know anyone else who'd done it.
Yeah.
Like, and that was only like 15 years ago.
And I'm never going to discourage anyone from starting a business because I think it's just such a good skill to do, whether it succeeds, fails, realize it's not for you, realize it's too easy or too hard. You realize whatever it is, I just think starting businesses is just such a great skill, and we need more entrepreneurs in Australia, not less.
Question here, while I'm thinking of it, do you think we are naturally going to be forced to create more entrepreneurs? Do you think there'll be a squeeze on the workforce over the coming years, and people will have to either have the founder entrepreneurial mindset within a corporate, or be squeezed into more of the gig economy, which is already...
I mean, yes to all of it. I'm not sure. I'm of the view that, you know, there's a big movement towards the gig economy, which is, and, you know, portfolio career, if you like. And that's great to see that flourishing. I also think on the other side, our roles within corporates require more entrepreneurial skills. So I don't just look as an entrepreneur as someone who starts their own business. You can be entrepreneurial and work in a very big company. Now, people who are entrepreneurial and work in a very big company and do that well, they really show out. Like they succeed in a different way. And so that's what I'm getting at. I think big companies need entrepreneurialism, if that's a word.
Yeah.
The gig economy is certainly available, you know, remote working and, you know, all the remote tools that we have to work now doesn't require us to necessarily be in one location. So I just think there's this explosion of the entrepreneurial skill set that the world needs. And if we think about where the world is going, which is where your question is, there is so much rapid change in technology now that no one here today could really identify what it's going to be like in 5 years, let alone 10 years.
Yeah.
It's going to change so much. It is changing in front of our eyes. You know, and it happens quickly. So if we embrace the fact that things are going to change so much, the next level of assumption is people who can really adapt to change really well as their core skill set are going to do really well.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurial skills by definition is adapting to change
Yeah.
all the time. So I think that as a skill set is just anyone who's an entrepreneur of a small business now, I agree with you. Like in my Lunar experience, the start was so fun. It was so fun. It was like the most fun time I've ever had in my life. Starting something, getting it going, feeling that validation, that was all so fun. And also really hard and stressful and all those things. In my personal journey, the key to all of that was purpose. I loved what I was doing. I hated being a lawyer. I was a lawyer who was working on big ASX deals, you know, the Fin Review in a big prestigious law firm. Sounds very fancy. Never felt dumber in my life. Truthfully, the work I was doing was not that exciting, but on the outside, it looked very, very cool. I just did not want to be a lawyer. I just kind of like left that saying, hey, I'm starting this business to help entrepreneurs. All of a sudden, when I was working in an industry I cared about, helping entrepreneurs, helping tech in Australia, helping startups in Australia, like changing VC, all this stuff that I was actually passionate about, loved inventions, just loving helping people doing something bold. I didn't mind being a lawyer. It gave me an entry point into it. With purpose changes everything for me. And so I think if you're an entrepreneur, and purpose can take different forms. Purpose can be to get financial freedom for your family, or a purpose can be, you know, to make a change in the world. Purpose can be, you know, it doesn't have to be this grand social purpose. You might really want to change a financial system or a working process that annoys you and you just want to change that thing, and that's a purpose. But I think when you have purpose, all the hard stuff becomes easier. And where I see entrepreneurs struggle is they don't know why they're doing what they're doing. So it's not necessarily hard when you have purpose because you're happy. You're not happy. You do the hard things, but you also know why you're doing the hard things beyond what you think. So I think if I was to give any advice to the small business owners out there who are doing it tough or grinding away or whatever, just have a look at your purpose. I almost see it like a marriage up where you can tell someone's not really in it for the right reasons. Those who are in it for the right reasons tend to be looking for the solutions to the problem that they're experiencing and that, whereas those that are not, you know, I don't know, just see it on their face, you know. You see it on them hoping it's over, wishing retirement would come sometimes, working towards it will be okay when. And so for me, I think working on purpose, which is kind of a lot of the work you do as well.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It's a couple of steps in the initial protocol that we go through. It's really understanding your values alignment, understanding meaning. It's understanding your signature skills, your zone of genius of what lights you up and energizes you in the world, and just checking in on that to see if that is still in alignment with what you're trying to create. So that's generally very helpful for people, whether they've been in a business for like 7 years or whether they're being on a corporate journey and they're looking to jump into the next thing. It's actually looking back at the last journey, understanding what that was about, understanding who they are as people today, and really digging into that purpose, that pain, that passion. Like, what is that? Like, what are my values today, and how do those values want to play out into the world? So it's incredibly important. So this podcast is called When I Grow Up. The genesis of it really was me thinking about my 14-year-old daughter, my 5-year-old daughter, my 1-year-old son, and thinking what the world might be like as they graduate, and also what tools do I enable them with as they go along. I might start with my 14-year-old daughter, Nancy. So what skills do you think we should be working on? Like, where should her focus be at this age? Knowing what you know about the world and business today, to be graduating in 5 or 6 years time, where would your focus be?
Well, I have very little experience with 14-year-old girls because I'm about to have my first son in 2 months' time. So it doesn't come from first-hand experience at all. But, thinking about the education system or the world post-school, which I've been fortunate to be involved in a fair bit, it's sort of coming back to what I said before. Like, I see the young people who are able to adapt as just like standing out. It's this ability to, I think, have that as a core skill set.
How do you train for that? How do you train for adaptability?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So I don't have the answer, but I think it's a different style. So if we used to teach and train towards career paths to get a job as the end result, I think that system is broken because we don't actually know what the job's going to be in 5 years' time. You have software engineers, people who studied software engineering at university now, like, what a bad degree to do. All of a sudden, midway in, ChatGPT's launched, and like the whole, like there's, all of a sudden these people are like, I can't get a job.
The one
and
job
it's mad.
you were told to go and get
exactly
10 years ago.
Yeah.
Suddenly,
So like, I think that thinking is so I think finding passion and purpose, like the stuff you love doing, following that, and like learning lots of different things, like how to start and do lots of different things. I was talking to someone, actually, I don't know if you know Army, the guy in the Northern Rivers who makes these things of gold. Anyway, he was talking about his daughter who had just graduated from Shearwater in Mullum. He said, or it might have been his son, sorry, if Army's listening, but one of them, and they went to Melbourne, and he said they left school and they went to Melbourne. They weren't actually really good at any one thing. They were just capable on so many things that when they found their spark, they were able to self-learn and adapt. So it was his child who moved to Melbourne, who had never picked up a camera before, got to Melbourne, fell in love with photography, and has this beautiful photography business and is flourishing all through self-learning. Found his way to Melbourne, arts and is very big there, stimulated, engaged, could self-learn, find the way. And he puts that down to, more of a generalist approach to education and how to engage in the world, how to be able to learn lots of different things rather than like it's maths, science, to do this, to do this, to do this.
It's the Da Vinci approach, right? It's the, he was intrigued by anatomy. He was cutting up cadavers. He was interested in how rivers flowed from an engineering perspective, like all of these different things, like rock formations, all of these different things. And so his like curiosity and his passions, like the intersection of that became his artwork and his engineering to do that. So it's following that curiosity. I think agency is a big one. And so, I was driving back from Tweed with my daughter yesterday, and we were talking about like different schooling options. And I think my belief here is, there is so many opportunities out there. There's so many opportunities to learn out there. There's so many ways to do that. It's kind of like up to you at some point to take that on and go and run with it. I think if, everything is getting done for a kid at the moment, and I even see that in sports. I even see it in football, like the overcoaching of kids. Like they're so technically good, but they're being told from like 5 or 6 exactly how to play the sport. There's no like agency in it. It's no like, oh, I'm just going to play and like learn this and learn that. And so when they get older, it's like, oh, so if someone's not telling me what to do, then how do I do it? And so maybe this is a call for the parents to maybe back off a bit and be like, do you know what? Put a little bit more emphasis on the kids to go and explore. and go and figure out what they want, because, you know, when you turn 21, your boss is not going to stand over you saying, oh, I think you should be doing this. Or if you start a company, someone's not going to be stood over you thinking, oh, you should be doing this. It's like self-aid, like go and figure that out. So how do you nurture that with love and ensuring that they're supported, but also, hey, do you know what? Like take something on yourself a little bit. Go and struggle, go and suffer like a little bit for something.
Yeah.
Education. So let's take the 1-year-old Tokyo. How's education going to change? Like classrooms of 30, like what do they look like in the next few years? How do you see the classroom evolving?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you how. I know what I hope it looks like.
Tell me, what do you hope it looks like?
Well, I just hope it looks like, I hope school can be a place of connection, really. Like, that's my hope, that we can cultivate connection, human connection. That's my hope. I don't believe we need to teach young kids how to use technology. Like, it's just not something that, you know, it's so sort of immersed in what we do and what the world looks like and what parents look like and all the things. So my hope for my future kids are to, like have a place of connection and human connection and interaction. And so I think classrooms, like from all ages onwards and through the system to post schooling, again, that thread of like promoting connection, human connection, I think is hugely important, because that's a key area. When you get groups of people together, it's such an opportunity to do that, and society is so not like that on the outside, that school's actually a really unique place for that.
Yeah.
And so I would hope that would be double clicked on, and in every decision that's made, in how are we creating empathy and connection between students, and that should go from how they learn to how they play, sports, all these, to the learning, to curriculum design, to all these things.
Yeah, it's very interesting. So actually giving them the opportunity to connect. I mean, even the classroom is like what you were saying before. Like, I was thinking back to my classroom, and it was like trying to quieten everybody down.
Exactly.
Like,
shut up.
Shut up.
Yeah.
Listen to this.
Exactly.
Like, get this into your mind. But there's so much information like out there. There's so like you could access that information so much more digestible now.
Yeah.
I wonder if that period of schooling just gets super condensed. Maybe it's into a couple of hours in a day, and it's very personalized. Maybe it's through a screen, and then the rest of the 80% is play, connection, like acting things out. Food for thought there.
Yeah.
Given your career,
Yep.
I think it would be remiss of me not to ask for your advice for people who are making career changes.
Yep.
What was your experience going from science to law? Do you have any advice for people who might be feeling like they're at the end of like one career, and they might be slightly older, and they're trying to think about how they jump into a completely different arena? What would your advice be for that?
My advice is, I don't think I've ever heard of someone saying, I regret making a jump. So that's like, if you take that as the starting point, I don't think I ever heard anyone say, hey, I was working at, I don't know, Deloitte, and I took this jump to start this business, even though the business didn't go well, and I wish I didn't take that jump. You know, I hear a lot of the people who wish they took the jump but didn't. I hear, so like we what I've seen over the years, and I have so many conversations with entrepreneurs in this journey. You're sitting in a job you don't like, you've got an idea for something you want to do, and you're trying to rationalize a way to do it perfectly. Hey, I'm going to work this job for 5 more years. I'm going to work on this side hustle. At some point in time, the side hustle is going to be big enough that it makes sense for me to go to this, to that, then I'll join this. And people are looking for ease.
Yeah.
And most of the time, it doesn't happen like that. Most of the time, it requires a jump. And you know, once you're in and you take that jump, things just change. You know, I don't think all business is done in the mind. You as the founder, you have an energy about you. You have a flow, you have a desire. There's all these things, all these other factors. And until you make the jump, you can't truly know what you're building. And so there are ways that you can make jumps and mitigate risks. You know, if you're sitting in a big workplace and you have an idea to start something, most of those workplaces would, if you went to them and said, hey, I'm going to take, you save up and say, I want to take 3 months unpaid leave to go work on this thing. If it doesn't work out, can I have my job back? Almost all workplaces will say yes, they've invested you, they're ready to go. You can save up, you can do things. There's programs, accelerator programs that you can get in that can give you a taste of this thing. But the common theme is you have to be in it. You have to give it a jump. And the success I see in people actually getting things off the ground when they've taken a jump, it's like this thing, they're working on it bit by bit as a side hustle, hardly goes anywhere. It's maybe a thing, maybe not a thing. And then all of a sudden, I don't see them for 6 months, and they come back to me, and they've got this thing, and it's like growing, and they're proud, and they come to me and say, "What changed?" It's like, "Oh, I actually decided to go all in."
Yeah.
And going all in is great because you do 2 things. You can also get to success maybe quicker, but you also learn that it's not going anywhere quicker.
Yeah.
You can fiddle around for 2-3 years, tinkering a little bit. 3 months you can maybe go, hey, not for me. So I think that's a big thing for me is flipping it instead of the narrative being, how might I make this so foolproof so that I can jump in? How about we flip that and we start with, what do I need to do in my life in order for me to jump in really quickly?
Yeah. Yeah. And the woo in me has seen like when you do make that leap, like the universe does have a very interesting way of supporting you in that. The people that are pulled, whether it's gravity or whatever it is, people are pulled into the orbit of that. Like once you decide, okay, I'm going here, it's strange, like some of the things that start popping up. So I would really agree with that.
Yeah. I mean, that was my experience. I worked on Luna for about a year behind closed doors as a side thing, and it went nowhere.
Yeah.
I then made a decision.
Yeah.
I'm just going to do this thing.
Yeah.
I wasn't telling anyone. I was hiding the idea from people. I was hiding it. I was just like doing it.
Yeah.
Because that's what I thought you needed to do, which you don't.
Yeah.
And then I remember it was really funny because like almost instantly I had sort of got my head around, great. I was going to this conference that was in social enterprise. So I was in sort of that startup world. I was representing the business that I was working at, but I knew that I was about to hand in notice to start this business. So the decision kind of was there.
Yeah.
I go to this conference. I tell one person about the idea. Hey, I'm going to be starting this thing. And they say to me, oh, cool. When you start the thing, call me. I'll be your first client. And I'm like, okay. And they were, you know what I mean? Like wow. And that wasn't the first conference, the first person I've spoken to about the thing. Like, like that would have happened so many times over the course of that year. But it wasn't until I had sort of made that decision that it was like, and maybe that's just because you start to open yourself up to opportunity.
Yeah, I think you do. I think there is, what's that, like cognitive bias when you say, see the red car and you'll see the red cars everywhere. If you make that psychological decision to like, okay, I'm going there, your brain will just see that and people will show up with it. So I think there's probably that playing off. Amazing. So if you had to leave some parting words and parting thoughts, summing this all up, like what would be your parting words?
Oh, and all the things.
All the things.
How long do we have?
60 seconds.
60 seconds. I think my parting words are, I think the world is beautiful, and I think we can get caught up in a mindset of like doom and gloom and this disaster in AI, problems with young men, all these things. Like Mother Nature has a wonderful way of supporting us when we sort of jump in and flow. And my parting words are, I guess, you know, on entrepreneurship, it's about jumping in, giving it a go. You're going to learn so much. On about the men's side too, it's about jumping in and improving and, you know, developing and, you know, creating better men of the future to contribute to the world in completely different way. And so I'm really optimistic on where the world's going. I'm really optimistic on how, you know, humanity will prevail over tech if there were to be to be something. And I think it's important that we cultivate that mindset so we keep creating visions for the future that we want.
Beautiful. Well said. Very well said. And if people wanted to reach out to you to learn more about this or find about the course, are you still running the course? Like, how would
the
people do
course
that?
the course is great. I recommend anyone who's interested in men's work in particular, John Wineland. He also does a lot of work in polarity, male, female, masculine, feminine, in the dance between.
Mm-hmm.
So John Wineland, you can find him online. He's got a bunch of different programs. They're incredible. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, so follow me there. If you want to have a chat about this topic in any forum, any of the topics ranging from VC to startups, tech, or you know, this young men and leadership, hit me up. I'd love to chat in any form.
Amazing, bro. Thank you so much.
Thanks, brother.
Cheers.